No, in YouTube. Oh, never mind, got it.
All right, we're admitting everyone now. Welcome, everyone. As guests, you will be muted upon entry, but if you'd like to ask us questions after the presentations, we'll yeah. All right, so I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start presenting. Okay. I think it's gonna keep pinging me every time someone joins. All right, let's see here. All right, Sal, do you want to turn off the music for now? All right. Welcome everyone to Techqueria's Pride Month event with Blend on intersecting identities. Can I get a quick thumbs up that you can see my slides, or are they still loading?
Still loading.
Still loading? Okay.
Yeah.
That one is still loading. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me try that again. Maybe it's the images, but I mean, you saw the title slide. All right, so recording notice. This event is being recorded. So by continuing to be in this event, you and other participants are consenting to be recorded. And we are currently live streaming the event to Techqueria's YouTube. All right, so here's the event agenda. We're gonna start with welcome and intros from Techqueria and Blend, and then immediately go into the breakout rooms in about 7 minutes. We also wanted to just recognize how we're living not just in unprecedented times because we're in a pandemic, but also because of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is still going on now. So we did kind of want to have just a brief moment of silence and just re-express that Techqueria is in solidarity with the Black community right now. So if we could just have one brief moment of silence, that'd be great. Okay, thank you. All right, so hi everyone, to introduce myself, I'm Frances. I'm one of the co-directors of Techqueria, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that serves the largest community of Latinx in tech. As a brief history, we started out back in 2015. David and Sashi wanted to find other Latinos in tech like them. We had our first meetup group. Only 3 people attended the first meeting. But then from there, we just kept having meetings and expanded and launched our online community as we know it today, expanded to different cities across the US. And last March, we incorporated it as a 501c3. And now we almost have 10,000 members across 7 active chapters and across the world. So we've really come a long way in those 5 years. These are the chapters where we currently have a chapter director, and if you see an asterisk, that means it's still in the trial period. With the pandemic, chapter growth has definitely stagnated a little bit, but what has been great is that the online community has really thrived. And so 25% of our almost 10,000 members from across the world are actually weekly active users in our online community, which is great to see. The mission of Techqueria is ultimately to provide Latinx professionals in tech with the resources and support they need to thrive and become leaders. We know the narrative, and I actually said this earlier today, we know the narrative for people of color is that they're in entry-level positions, and that there's not enough Black and Latinx leadership at the very top. And so that's what we're hoping to put our efforts into. And ultimately, we want to become the most powerful and robust professional network of Latinx professionals in tech. In terms of our roadmap, our focus this year is to launch our job board so that there's like a dedicated place where members can find new jobs and also have a resume bank for employers. And then as the years come by, we also want to launch a mentorship program and a CASA conference, which we had to unfortunately postpone because of the pandemic. If you're interested in upcoming Techqueria events, you can find out more at events.techqueria.org, or you can become a member to get notified of the latest updates through our online community. I also want to just give a really big shout out to the Techqueria event team, Sal, Envy, and Abel. Thank you for all your help. This was a big event in the making. And I'm going to pass it on to Blend here. So Yesenia, feel free to take it away. I will stop sharing. And I will mute those annoying little sounds.
Francis, I think you might need to make her a co-host.
Hello.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you guys were able to hear me. How are you guys?
Hey, Yesenia, about that. You're the co-host now. You should be able to share.
Okay, great. Actually, I don't know where the slides, I was also supposed to be sharing a part of the slides, I think, but let's see.
Oh, I have it pulled up.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, this is Yesenia. I actually work at Blend. I work also with Chiluiza. So I'm actually the client care and quality control lead here at Blend, actually Blend Insurance, and I've been doing it now for about 17 years. So basically, I've been at Blend for almost 2 years now, and I'm really happy to be here. And it's definitely a great collaboration with the whole mortgage in tech and insure tech. I've been in insure tech for about 8 years now. And so next slide. So what is Blend? So Blend stands for Better Lending. It's a digital platform for mortgage companies and consumer banking. Blend makes the process of getting the loans simpler, faster, and safer by utilizing 4 pillars: accessibility, transparency, and simplicity. It was founded in 2012. It has grown fundamentally to transform this experience. Also noted as in Inc. magazine just recently as one of the best places to work. Definitely, I agree with that. Blend is a trusted partner for many of the major financial institutions such as Navy Fed, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, and SunTrust. And this is just to make the home buying experience, a lot more easier. And they've actually added products to make it more cohesive. So insurance products, just like title insurance, realty, and homeowners insurance. That's where I'm at right now. So Blend has definitely made a commitment in the future to the future to provide a seamless experience in the digital mortgage field. So definitely we are hiring, even in the midst of this pandemic, we're still hiring. Actually, in my team, we just interviewed as well today, so really excited about that. But we do have 3 offices, one in New York, one in San Francisco, which is the main headquarters, and in Los Angeles. And that's it for me.
Great. Thanks, Yesenia. Appreciate it. All right. So now we're going to break right into our first breakout rooms. And as a heads up, you will get a prompt from Zoom to join the breakout room. Make sure to turn on your video and mute yourself unless you're talking. Although with the breakout rooms, we can definitely be more flexible with that. And if you haven't already, although this was part of registration, please make sure to always follow our Techqueria's Code of Conduct. We are also giving away raffle prizes at the end of the event from me too. So stick around for that if you would like to win one of those t-shirts. They're part of the Solidarity Collection, so 100% of the net proceeds will go to legal defense and education funds that support the Black community. So you're about to be prompted to enter a breakout room. Each breakout room will last for about 10 minutes, so about until 9:20 ET. And we will have dedicated prompts for each breakout room to help facilitate the discussion. And India will be sharing those prompts in chat. All right, let's go ahead and do that now. 1 second. Here we go. And I'm creating them now. So feel free to join those breakout rooms, y'all. And then let me make sure that I share the prompts here, actually. Actually, Sal, do you know if we can see the prompts? Oh, you're on mute.
We can't see the prompts, but what you can do is you can broadcast.
Okay, how do I do that?
So I believe right below you, there should be a broadcast or a chat version. And then, yeah, I think that could work.
Okay, and so we'll continue this for the next like 7 minutes. Oh, actually, we were supposed to start this in 2 minutes. Oops.
It's fine because I think some speakers wanted to speak more. So.
Are gonna what?
Some speakers wanted to chat more. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So they don't see the questions.
I did broadcast the message though.
To everyone?
Yeah.
I'm asking my partner to see if you can see them. It says it was there for a second.
Okay, hold on. Because I also sent it via chat, so.
Okay, I'm going to meet Clara and then send them to a meeting room.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, for some reason, I just don't have that option.
Hey, Clara, we're currently in a breakout session. And so if you go down below where it says breakout rooms, you can join a breakout room.
Hopefully people are enjoying themselves there. I don't know how to do the, how to share the prompts with the rest of the folks, because I already tried doing it with the broadcast.
Try sending it again.
To the broadcast? Okay. I just did it. Five more minutes left.
So
I think
for
we're
the
like 5 minutes behind, but it's not a big deal. It's fine.
I think. Okay, so for the other breakout rooms, I'm thinking what we can do is send one question at a time.
Send in one question at a time. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that for future reference.
I can type them up for you and then message them via Slack.
Also, I think that this is still being recorded on YouTube, so this conversation, but it's fine. Hello, random folks who are watching this. Yeah, breakout rooms are fun. All right, 4 more minutes. I should not allow people to join using their phone. I know that for future reference now. Okay, let me assign that to more. I also need a way to like mute the waiting room notifs.
If there is a way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's in advanced features. Let me stop sharing. Okay, 3 more minutes.
Did you figure out the notifications?
I don't know how.
Let's see.
Maybe I need to go into that specific meeting.
If you go, yeah. I've seen it. I just don't know how to get through.
Okay, I think I turned off the waiting room. So if people come in, they'll just come in. So that should be preventing any notifs. Okay, 1 minute left. So for the future, for the next breakout session, it'll just be like you send me the prompts, and then it's like I just send them one by one.
Yeah, so if you can, yeah, I'll send you 3 prompts. And so first you'll send one and then wait like 2 or 3 minutes and then send the other one. And then another 3 minutes and then send the last one.
Okay, sounds good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and, whoops. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close all the rooms. Oh, they close in 1 minute. Oh, that's how it works. Okay. Gotcha. They're closing now. Hey everyone, welcome back. Feel free to react, G, for your experience from the waiting rooms, or sorry, the breakout rooms. We have everyone on mute for default. 13 more seconds, and then we can pop right into lightning talks with Abel and Reinaldo. Alrighty, welcome back everyone again. So we're gonna get right started to our lightning talks with Abel and Reinaldo. Let's see here. Okay, so Abel Quintero is one of our dear leads at Techqueria. He's our Portland chapter director. He's also a board member at the Q Center and a lead for Out in Tech, which is another nonprofit organization that supports LGBTQIA professionals in the tech industry. We'll be sharing out his social media as well. But Abel, I'm gonna stop sharing and let you share so you can take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Francis. All right, I will go ahead and get these slides open. One sec. I need to share the screen as well. There we go. All right. Can everybody see that? Cool. All right. So yeah, thanks for the intro, Francis. As stated, my name is Abel Quintero, or Abel, either pronunciation is fine. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Chicago, and then I went to college in LA, and then moved up to Portland a couple years ago, which is where I currently am. And ethnic background, I'm Chinese, Colombian, and white. Grew up in a multicultural, multiracial family. And my queer identity is pansexual or bisexual. And yeah, I guess I use queer just to make it easier, just sort of as the umbrella term. But yeah, this also apologies in advance if this seems like it's very like an unorganized talk, because I initially wasn't going to be a speaker, and unfortunately one of our original speakers was sick, so I volunteered to step in just this morning. So forgive me for these slides being a bit messy. But yeah, I guess in this quick lightning talk, I just wanted to tell everyone a little bit about how I bring intersectionality into the work that I do. And so beginning with organizing. So as Francis mentioned, in addition to the Techqueria Portland chapter, I'm also involved on the leadership team for Out in Tech, as well as, go back, for Out in Tech, as well as the Q Center here in Portland. And so I try to really thread in all of my identities into the organizing work that I do. And so, yeah, so that's one thing that I really try to focus on when I'm organizing events or just organizing in general, is to build intersectionality into the events. So one example was last year I held a Design for Equity panel for Out in Tech, and had a panel of all queer people of color who are in the design field. So yeah, it was based off of an organization called Creative Reaction Lab that was founded out of the Ferguson protests. And they are all about this thing called equity-centered community design. So I organized this event to really talk to the attendees about how they can be involved in equity-centered design, as well as learn about the experiences of these panelists in their workplaces. And yeah, I think another thing that I really try to think about when organizing events is centering the underrepresented voices. So whether that be Black, Indigenous people of color, or queer and trans people of color, those are really the voices that I try to bring to the table at all of our events. And then just some like questions to ask in general. This is something you can apply to your work or your organizing or anything. And this is part of that equity-centered design framework. So you can ask, who is benefiting socially, economically, or financially from this project that you're working on? Who has decision-making power? Are there any voices or perspectives that might be missing? And how can you ensure balanced representation? So yeah, these are just some of the questions that you can ask to really make sure you're centering equity in your work. And then on this next slide, just want to clarify some definitions. These are also from Creative Reaction Lab. So we often hear these words thrown around: diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's important to distinguish them. So diversity is when there's a variety of characteristics within a group, such as neighborhood, school, community, or city, or a variety of identifiers and characteristics. In the case of people, that reflects our individuality. And then inclusion is the leveraging of difference by integrating diverse perspectives and creating a better outcome for all. It is an invitation that not only accepts differences, but celebrates. And
well, just a heads up, it looks like your slides are not transitioning. So it's still on the title slide.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. And I think if you hit present and then get to the slide you're on, that'll work.
Yeah, let me try that real quick.
Okay, cool. Because right now we just see the we just saw the speaker slide.
Okay. Can you see the definitions one? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Cool. And so yeah, as I was saying, inclusion is the leveraging of these differences by integrating diverse perspectives and creating a better outcome for all. And important to note that diversity and inclusion are not interchangeable. There can be diversity without inclusion and vice versa. And then finally, equity revolves around systemic outcomes and exists when outcomes are no longer predicted by any aspect of an individual's identity. So yeah, those are important definitions to distinguish. Real quick, I'm just gonna flash by my last slide since y'all didn't see it. Let's see if this works. Can everyone see those? Cool. Yeah, so the questions to ask are who is benefiting from your project, who has decision-making power, are there any voices or perspectives that might be missing, and how can you ensure balanced representation? All right. And then lastly, to close out, just wanted to acknowledge again that these are unprecedented times, and especially this month being Pride Month, but also with all the protests going on for Black Lives Matter. Just wanted to highlight some Black-led LGBTQ organizations that you can donate to. So these are just a few of them coming from Raquel Willis. And yeah, just wanted to make sure that we keep the fight going, and that Pride really did start from Black and brown queer folks. And so yeah, definitely want to keep that going. Thank you all.
Thank you, much appreciated. All right, we're gonna kick it off with the next speaker, Reinaldo. So let me go ahead and share his title. So Reinaldo is a deployment consultant at Blend. You can find him, I guess, Reinaldo, you don't have a Twitter, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, yeah, so feel free to check out his company Twitter account, and then his LinkedIn and Instagram will also be shared in the chat. So Reinaldo, go ahead. I'll have your speaker title screen here.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro. And hey, everyone. Excited to be here. Thank you, Ulysses, for inviting me to the event. You guys will hear about Ulysses. He's head of D&I at my company. Amazing guy. So yeah, excited to be here. Today we decided to share some personal experiences that hoping, or maybe not hoping, but maybe some of you guys can relate. Some experiences from my life or personal as a gay man and as a Latin immigrant in the Bay Area. I was born and raised in Venezuela until I was 23 years old. And then I moved to the Bay Area with the idea, I don't know if you guys have any context from my country, but it's kind of messed up down there. So I left the country with the idea of finding a better future for myself, my family, and the people around me. So yeah, landed in the Bay Area when I was 23. And the fun journey started. Today I work as a deployment consultant, as mentioned, for Blend. Prior to that, I was working for Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. I was there for about 2 years. But before that is when all the fun was happening. I mean, I'm having fun today, but I'm just not being playful. Which is when I moved here, I had a broken English and no professional experience at all. I left the country right after finishing college. So I landed here trying to make it. So I was this guy, 23-year-old, in the Bay Area with a broken English, trying to find a job. It was really challenging and really, I mean, I was getting turned down a lot of rejection from even entry-level positions, which of course doesn't feel good sometimes, right? I mean, rejection never feels good. So I'm sharing all these because during that time that I was trying to make it into any entry-level position that could allow me to start building a career. With all this rejection, I had to survive. As you guys know, the Bay Area is not a cheap space or not a cheap place to live. So you could find me as your Uber driver. I was your server at the restaurant in downtown San Francisco. I was the guy building your closet from the Container Store, or painting your house, or doing your moving, or I even tried selling cars for 3 weeks. I didn't last there. I could not sell a car if I needed to save my life with that. That was really bad. And during that time, I was feeling very insecure about myself because I was comparing myself with other people around my age, right? Like I was 24. At that time, a lot of people are already working or have quite a few years of experience. So that wasn't doing any good to myself, right? If I'm 24, 25, and I was meeting all these people with these fancy titles or all these amazing jobs that I was kind of jealous, I can admit. And I'm bringing this up because, I mean, the point of my story, or what I want to share, is that we all have different backgrounds. We have different experiences. We come from different parts of the world, different families, education. We all have different opportunities. The message I want to transmit is like, just don't compare yourself with other people unless you're going to use it as a motivation. It could be really hurtful if you're doing it and kind of just bringing yourself down. That's something I kind of learned as I was going through that, and I kind of just had to let go and learn that everything I was doing was just for myself. And all those insecurities that I had, whether it was for me being an immigrant or because my English wasn't good enough or stuff like that, and comparing myself to other people, weren't helping me at all. So right when I started putting the right energy and just learning that my journey was for me and not for anyone else, I felt that I was in more peace with myself. And I feel like today, if I look back and compare myself with myself 6 years ago when I moved here, I'm in a way better place. And it's still a lot of things to achieve and accomplish, but yeah, just kind of wanted to share that piece in there. And I don't know how many of you can relate to that. And I think sometimes I'm still guilty of that, right? I just turned 30, and a few months ago, or not even a few months ago, but I would think like, oh my God, by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna own a house and do all this stuff because all the people did it, right? Like my parents bought their first house when they were like 22 or something. So that's not happening, not in the Bay Area, not anytime soon. So I'm just going with the flow, just have the vision where you wanna go, and then just take it on your own pace. Things will happen if you have the passion for it and if you're working hard for it.
That was amazing. Thank you, Reinaldo. Feel free to react, Chi, on, or just tell him in chat how you felt. But yeah, Bay Area, oh my God, so expensive. And it's been nice to be on the East Coast since the pandemic started. Everything's cheaper here. All right, so we're gonna transition into our second breakout room session. So get ready to mingle with some new folks. This one is going to be specifically around the theme of creating your own path, and we're going to make sure to share these in the broadcast. So let's go ahead and create those breakout room sessions right now. Let's see here. I guess I have to stop sharing. Alrighty. So get ready for those breakout rooms. All right, you're going to be prompted to join, so feel free to do that now. Yes, if you haven't already, please join your breakout room. I'm really hoping too, Sal, that it didn't that it was random. I just don't know if it was. Do you think it was? Oh, you're on mute.
It should be random. I'm asking my partner right now if he is in the same room. And then I sent you the questions via Slack.
Okay, thank you.
It is the same group.
Oh no.
And so we can skip the first question and then just wait 5 minutes until we share the second question.
Okay. Okay, so this one, for the next one, I need to make sure that it's like random. And then we're gonna do this until yeah. So the timing definitely needs to be adjusted a little bit because I think that was the thing. And yeah, everyone went over a little, so I guess we should accommodate for that too.
Let's see how we can also take back some of the time since we're skipping the first question for this one. You can send it a few minutes after. Okay.
Yeah, and let me actually just put the slides in the chat too so that they have it.
Are you able to pull the attendees who are currently on here?
What do you mean?
Are you able to pull a list of attendees that have joined the session?
I see all of the attendees that are in there now, but I just don't know yeah.
I've been writing them down so that I can do the raffle on the side with just these attendees because I realized that I had 10 people and the first 8 were not on the call.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, let's let India know because I think she was supposed to be the one to do the raffle thing, but you can also just do it. It's totally fine.
Yeah, she asked me to do it, and so I'm gonna.
Okay.
But I'm just going through the participants and getting everyone's names, and then I can do it on the side and have it ready by the time we do the raffle.
Okay, great. That sounds good. And then I think maybe we should skip the next breakout room just because we're low on time, right?
Let's do 5 minutes for the breakout room instead of 10. And that should cut us 10 minutes by the end of it.
Okay, because I know right now, based on the agenda, like it's 6:41, so we should be in our third breakout room, but instead we haven't done the lightning talk. So we just want to consider that. Or what we can do instead is just like skip the group reflection and closing thoughts. Maybe that would be best. Does that work?
Yeah. Did you share the second question already?
Yeah.
And then we should be bringing them back shortly. I don't know if you can hear my partner screaming, but he's having a great time. He's in the living room. Reinaldo said he can't afford a house in the Bay Area. I'm like, yep, we keep trying, but it's not gonna happen. Should we bring everyone back?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. So instead, this will be 6:45, and then 6:55, and then 7. Yeah, I think we're still good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're totally good. I don't know why I'm freaking out so much. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, cool. So I updated the agenda to like reflect the new time. So everything should be good there. But let me go ahead and put this. I think that should be accurate. All right. Hey everyone, welcome back. All right, we're gonna kick it off again with lightning talks from Kat and Alexis. Really excited to hear from both of them. I've heard them both speak before at different events. So let me go ahead and kick it off with Kat here, and hold on one second. All right, so Kat Perez is founder and chief of product at Health Sherpa. You can find her on Twitter at Kat Perez Says, and we will also be sharing, of course, her LinkedIn and Instagram. So Kat, I will transition from you and let you share your screen so you can take it away.
Great, thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Just let me know when you folks can see my screen on your end.
Yes. Present. All right, there you go. You're good.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for the intro. Yeah, real quick, Health Sherpa. We've been around since healthcare.gov went live, if you folks remember that year. We essentially help folks find, enroll, and use ACA health coverage, also known as Obamacare. So we help low-income, uninsured folks, and we've been around and doing this for some time now. So yeah, in terms of what I'll be covering, I'll be sharing a lot about my personal stories in these next 5 minutes or so, but really talking about how kind of purpose can really drive outcomes in career. So I'll be sharing how that maps back to me as a person. For me, it's always been fluid. So it's changed over time for sure. And most of that has been driven just by really my identity and my intersectional identity and just where I came from. And I think that's true for a lot of folks. But for me, there were really specific moments that kind of snowballed into kind of where I am today. So I'm going to go to the next slide here. So one big part of my identity that has shaped, my purpose or purpose at any given point in time is class. So I grew up low income. I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, East Coaster at heart. And my parents worked multiple jobs. They were rarely home, really just trying to put food on the table, give us better opportunities, send us to private school, that sort of thing. So that was my experience as a child growing up, and even as a young adult, as a teenager, and through college. But really the purpose that I had at that point was really to achieve wealth for myself and my family. The other big part of my identity that has shaped purpose along the way is my race. So I am Korean and half Puerto Rican. And some of my experiences have been interesting as a biracial person because it just is hard to know when I fit in. When I'm, even in this example, like my father's the youngest of 10, so huge Puerto Rican family I grew up around. Less so around the Korean side because they that side of the family is mostly in South Korea, but I just didn't fit in as growing up just because I felt more visibly Korean, and I am visibly more Korean. And I had experience like this on both sides. So I think this is something that I was struggling with as a younger person and as a child. But really that personal purpose has been to embrace my Koricanness, so to speak. The next part of my identity that has shaped my purpose is really just my education. Growing up, didn't have access to a ton of education. I mean, my parents didn't have more than a high school education. So for me, it was, and as I mentioned prior, they really kind of worked multiple jobs to send us to private school and better schools. In college, I had to essentially work multiple jobs, financial aid, and that was with a few scholarships. So I was the first in my entire extended family to go to and graduate college, which was a huge kind of milestone. And really that purpose for me, that personal purpose was to make my parents proud. And just as it relates to my sexuality, today I identify as queer. In the past, I've identified as a lesbian. And I knew since I was, very young that I was different. And so I kind of lived the closeted life for a very, very long time. Didn't come out till my late 20s. And that was tough. I wasn't accepted by my parents for, I guess it was like 2 years, very religious. So it was really, really hard. But in that darkness, I found community. I packed up my bags at 25 and moved to San Francisco. I had some friends there, and that was real fun as a 25-year-old. But in retrospect, as I think back to those experiences and some of those relationships, or what I thought were friendships, I still felt othered as a woman of color, and my POC friends too within the community felt this as well. So it's just something that I'm kind of realizing and wrapping my head around now, that still can happen within community. And that's where all of the intersectionalism really comes into play. But at the time, for me, purpose was really about sharing stories to document all community members. I was very much into photography, still am, but I started this blog called Lesbians in SF, and that was super fun. There were a couple art shows. The more recent one that I've been aware of as I've entered my professional career, probably the past 8 years or so, especially in tech, is my gender identity. So I identify as a cis woman. And my experience, this is just one example, and this was a really kind of toxic experience for me. I joined this small startup in LA as chief of products, so C-level exec, and I just was not taken seriously at all. I mean, this guy, the CEO, cis white male, was literally going to a junior product manager, another cis white guy, who he was just constantly bro downing with, for discussions that we should have been having. Those discussions he hired me for. So it was just, I mean, it was a really toxic experience, and that is literally just one example of many that I experienced just as it relates to my gender. And then, put on all of the other portions of my identity on top of this, and it gets incredibly more complicated. So purpose for me as it relates to this is to create opportunity and wealth for other women, especially women of color. So that's something that is absolutely at the forefront of my mind, just in terms of where I'm at in my career. So yeah, all of those kind of personal experiences and just components of my intersectional identity, that's, they led to, these kind of purpose-driven moments, which led me here today in my career. And, that's building a really amazing team at a social impact company where we're serving underrepresented folks. It also means doing amazing things internally from a people ops perspective to take care of our folks and to build an inclusive and safe environment for our team members, whether that's designing inclusive benefits, whether that is diversity and difference, equity and belonging, inclusion initiatives, and more. So, and really just kind of just showing up for folks and developing growth paths for our folks as well. This is a photo from last open enrollment. We had a little offsite. You could see there's some beverages in hand, but we had hit a very big milestone, 3 million people enrolled in ACA health coverage. So we were celebrating there. And I'll leave you folks with this. By the way, in this photo, this is me playing basketball with a few teammates, and that is the CEO, George, my co-founder, trying to block my shot. I'll leave you with a hockey quote from Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And I've taken many, but I think the thing I would like to add and leave you with is that shots can also be assists, in that you can help others along the way and still achieve greatness. Muchas gracias, kamsahamnida, and thank you.
Gracias, Kat. Really appreciate it. I love your story. I can relate to it in so many ways, especially when it comes to like specifically cis white men in the tech industry. It's like, it's very real. And I think like everyone is very aware of like, allyship now, especially with everything that's been happening. I want to introduce our next speaker, Alexis Lucio. And let me go ahead and pull up her slide here. Alexis is the accessibility and inclusive design lead at Splunk. You can find her on Twitter at AlexisXLucio, and we'll also be sharing her LinkedIn. All right, Alexis, I will stop sharing and let you take it away.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Thanks for the awesome intro, as always. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to do an Indigenous land acknowledgement. And I do this because since the 1400s and before, Indigenous lands, particularly the US, have been stolen and impacted in harmful ways. We've nearly eradicated an entire population, and I think it's really important for us to recognize the folks who were on this land before colonizers came. So I'm part of the SF chapter of Techqueria, which is on Ohlone land, and I'm giving you this presentation from Tongva land, which is modern day Los Angeles. So hi everyone. With that, my name is Alexis Lucio. I use she, her, they, them pronouns, and I spend most of my day as the accessibility and inclusive design lead at Splunk. A few of my million data points, as we at Splunk like to call it. I'm a first generation high school and four-year college grad. I identify as queer, a femme, Latinx, and I was the one who suggested this topic of how passion can fuel your career. which at this point I'm kind of like, why'd you do this to yourself? It was such a hard time to squeeze something into 5 minutes. But here we go, right? So my biggest realization as I was contemplating on my life was the moment of the 2016 election, where I found myself crying in the streets of a financial district. And I knew that somewhere my passion, my anger, and my sadness drove me to a new truth, which was that I decided at that moment to be the role model that I wanted to see growing up. You know, all my academic and even professional to this day accomplishments are always accredited to my gender or my ethnicity, instead of the fact that I could do things like everyone else. The media portrays Latinx folks as only good, especially Latinas, for singing, background dancing, or like the talk show host. I had a really poor and traumatic coming out story, to be expected when you have a Bible thumping Mexican Catholic mother. And it actually put me back in the closet, so to speak. And it took me another 10 years to come out and really start embracing my queerness. So I figured in all of this, in the new world that we were going into, the least that I could do was give back and show up to show the next generation that there was more to us than what the media and society portrayed us to be. And maybe if there was one less queer kid who had a negative impact about their coming out experience, or had a chosen family to rely on, maybe I could do good in the world. So while trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career, I ended up volunteering for a nonprofit called Interact Project. Fun fact, I had to join in 2017 because I missed the 2016 deadline by 2 days. But I ended up going in and being one of the foundational teachers for their design methodology 8-week program called Youth Design Academy. And it was everything that I had wanted. I saw Latinx students, Black students, Asian students, biracial students, and there was so much that I learned from them, and there was so much that they saw in me. And I knew that this was the direction that I wanted to pursue. Meanwhile, I had started work in product design as the first and only designer at a startup, the 5th woman, and the first woman of color. And I really just wanted to see more people who looked like me. And that's where I developed this curiosity for connection. I started joining dance teams, going to design community events, joining Slack channels like Techqueria. And I asked myself, who could I see myself as that kind of looks like me? Which was hard when you're queer, Latinx, first gen, and a woman, all these identities. But whoever I did see, I asked for informational interviews. And it really drove this curiosity, or even a desire for education through lived experiences and hearing others. And it was through the Techqueria Slack, actually, that I got my job at Splunk. From there, that was the first company in which I saw employee resource groups for the first time. And that was something that was completely unheard of to me, but really pivotal when I look back on it. Pride, which is the LGBTQIA star employee resource group, gave me a home when my actual workload wasn't great. And it allowed me to feel safe enough to be out and happy and authentic to be out in my own workplace. It inspired me in the people work so much that I ended up with another coworker co-founding Somos, which I got to name, excitingly enough, which is our Latinx employee resource group at Splunk. Also, I started doing the work to work through my anger, guilt, shame, and sadness around my identity and who I was. And it was one random session that my curandera looked at me in the eyes and said, I don't know why I want to say this right now, but I do know that your purpose on earth is to open the doors for others. And that hit me in a really interesting way. And I said, okay, well, if my job is to open doors for others, then others have to hear my story. So I decided to look into speaking in remote now, and pre-COVID in-person presentations. This is an event that was hosted at Slack for QTPOC Mentorship Night last year. And I have to admit, while it's absolutely terrifying, sharing my story is liberating, even healing, and it allows me to make connections with others, which is my passion. And soon enough, my friends, chosen family, and coworkers were seeing recordings of my talks, or even are in these talks right now. I see y'all, thanks for coming. And one day last year in September, my head of design asked me to have a one-on-one with him. And after assuring me multiple times that I wasn't going to be fired, he looked me in the eye and asked me, how would you like to think of diversity and inclusion beyond race, gender, and sexual orientation? And he explained to me that because of the work that he had seen via me speaking or the ERG work, that he thought I was a perfect fit to be Splunk's first accessibility designer. And that's now. Here I am, grateful and still a little dazed that I have a career that allows me to practice authentic allyship and allows me to learn and advocate to support subjects like disability justice, data justice, and social inequity. So I leave you all with some food for thought. What fuels you, whether it's with or without money? Hopefully without money. And what parts or all of it can you bring into telling your career narrative? And also recognize that that answer to those questions may change. So always give yourself some time to practice reflecting, contemplating, and evaluating. Thanks for listening to me today. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn if we've met in real life, and Interact Project is very busy in these trying times. We are looking for volunteers and donations and sponsorships, so please consider working with us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alexis. That was amazing. Really appreciate it. We're a little bit behind schedule, but we're going to go ahead and get into our breakout room session number 3 here. And I'll make sure to share the prompts a little bit more spaced out, but this is going to be on the topic of how purpose drives career. It's going to be 10 minutes, and we're going to just automatically pop you all in there, and it's going to be randomized, so you will get to mingle with new people. All right, see you all in 10 minutes. Whoops. Hi, Caitlin. If you're just joining, you can join one of the breakout rooms. We're in breakout room sessions right now. All right, so we are going to transition from the breakout rooms back to the lightning talks, and these are our last two lightning talks for the event. It is Kat with a K and Michael. So Kat is a senior UX researcher at Fitbit. She can be reached through her columbia.edu email, and we'll also share her LinkedIn profile as well. All right, Kat, I'm gonna stop sharing and let you take it away.
Sorry, I've gotten lost in my dual screen menagerie.
No worries, take your time. Zoom is a complex beast. That's like what it is. All right.
Yeah, all right, there we go. So thank you all for being here today. And so, like Francis just mentioned, my name is Kat, and I'm a senior UX researcher. And so, just to kind of start off, what is UX research? And so really my job is to talk to users to understand what their needs, attitudes, and behaviors are, and then to use these insights to help inform product and decision. And so the goal of UX research is to essentially work with teams to make things that provide value and are easy to use. Now, the thing is, does this always happen? Not really. I think we've all experienced products that aren't accessible, and sometimes they're not only frustrating, but they feel limiting. And so that's sort of where the idea of inclusive design and inclusive research comes in. And that's what I'll be talking about today. So throughout my career, I've worked with American companies that have been trying to create products for international markets and vice versa. And so as a result, I'm constantly thinking about how research and design is impacted by the intersectionality of things like age and gender and culture. And I think particularly with this group today, we are so much often at that intersection that I feel it's probably something that y'all hear about as well and think about as well. And so today I'd like to share some tips that can really sort of empower anyone, regardless of where you are on your team, whether it's marketing, PM, engineer, customer service, to sort of think of ways where you can try to add more inclusivity into the products of your job or feel empowered to be able to speak to others to do so. And so let's sort of start at the beginning, which is identifying what are the research needs, or essentially what are the things that we need to talk to users about. And so throughout the production cycle, that's probably, where you'll be speaking to them. And when you're thinking about this, it's important to narrow down and really understand what you want to know, what these conversations should look like. And this essentially is to help you make sure that you're not missing any blind spots. So 3 questions to ask yourself at this stage is, what do you want to know? What do you already know? And what do you hope to do with this information? And by writing this out and keeping it handy, you really will be able to sort of get a stronger idea of who you want to speak to and identify potential edge cases that may not have occurred to you before. And at the same time, it helps you make sure that you're keeping within the scope of your work and projects. So now that you've identified a research question, this is the point in which you kind of think about what types of users, what type of people do we want to talk to about our products. And at this point, it's not thinking about your everyday consumer, which inherently might have some bias, but really thinking about who are at the margins. And so there's, the photography exercise called the 12 picture process. And in it, you stand in one spot, and instead of taking a picture of what's in front of you, you're taking a picture of what's above, below, or to your sides. And the reason for that is it's because it asks you to go beyond what's easy, beyond what's just right in front of you as a solution. And so So the idea is to really apply that philosophy here. When you're looking at analytics, what are the edge cases? What do you're looking at, not necessarily the patterns, but about the outliers in the situation. And that really can help provide some powerful impacts. You know, when we think about icons or that are used on apps or websites, sure, they're visually appealing, but they also make things usable for people who speak different languages or who might have trouble reading small font, or maybe, you know, just might have trouble reading in general. And so the impact can be felt really throughout the entire process. So asking the right questions. So at this point, you know, you might have an idea, okay, we want to speak to a lot of different types of users, a lot of broad audience, but really then you need to think about the questions themselves. So here's a survey question that was sent out to women who identified as lesbian or gay. And there's a problem with this question, and, you know, quick 5-second quiz. Can you identify what it is? If you can't, that's okay. The company didn't either until they ended up getting called out on it, and then they actually had to send a new survey out and apologize for the misstep. So what's the answer? Many respondents actually either sometimes or exclusively wore shoes that were in the men's section, and so they weren't sure whether they should put down their shoe size in women's or men's. So what's the takeaway? Be clear and explicit, and think about the context of your questions in a person's everyday life. If not, you risk basing decisions off of bad data, alienating your user base, or having to spend more time and money having to redo projects. So there are ways in which you can sort of try to make sure that the questions are clear or explicit. So you could either ask, if you're in the position in which you're the person who's writing these questions, preparing to talk to users, you can ask to do so. Or when you're working with others that are there, test the protocol, you know, be the volunteer to sort of help think about these things. And in addition, a lot of it is being flexible. It's okay to admit that you don't know everything and that you might have to adapt along the way. That's, you know, it's part of the process of learning. It's part of the process of growth. So getting buy-in, I think one of the harder things is you may have recommendations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to jump on board to do it. And so at this point, it's sort of using the data, using that user knowledge that you've gained to sort of help back up those decisions and facilitate inclusivity. Regardless of the role that you have in the company, there are ways in which you can incorporate sort of that user perspective into the conversations that you're having. So for example, if there is research happening, you can either, one, encourage people to go, or you go as well. You can use examples of others in the field that are doing these things that are inclusive and illustrating how it could make your own company competitive or profitable, more profitable. And, you know, the other part is creating empathy, right? And having stakeholders put themselves in the shoes of users. Sometimes that's easy, that can be done sometimes by even just starting with Imagine and presenting a real life scenario. So for example, let's say your manager doesn't really see the need to create digital Pride experiences. You could start with, imagine you live in a small town and Pride is one of the few times where you can connect with queer folks, but now it's canceled. So you go online, and then positioning it as, what can we do as a company to make sure that they're coming to us for those digital experiences? So as you look at the summary of sort of this conversation, you know, it's important to remember that inclusive tech starts when there's inclusivity in the entire production cycle. And we're all advocates for systemic change in user research and design. And we can all fight for a world where tech reflects the needs of others and of those all consumers, one user at a time. And thank you.
Thanks so much, Kat. I'm going to do a presentation. And yeah, I think like what you were saying, we need to have diverse voices in these rooms where all the decisions are being made. Otherwise, we're just going to keep like creating biases, and not just the code we write, but like the product decisions that we make, and those directly affect us. Facial recognition being like a primary example I can think of right now. So, all right, for our next speaker, we have Michael Orozco. And one thing I will say about Michael is that in every interaction that I've had with him, it's just always been really positive and very like real and honest. So that's what I really appreciate about Michael. Michael is a technical recruiter at Netflix. You can find his company handle at Netflix, or, you know, just like watch it all day like I do. And you can also find him on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with him. We'll share his link. All right, Michael, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share, and I will have you take it away.
Thank you for the amazing intro, Francis. I appreciate it.
Yes.
1 minute. Perfect. Can you see my screen? Actually, I don't want to see like the back of my screen. Can everyone see?
Yeah, you're good, Michael.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. Once again, my name is Michael. I am a technical recruiter at Netflix. My pronouns are he, him. I'm actually going to start this timer real quick just because I talk a lot and I want to make sure I don't make us late. But I work at Netflix. It's actually my 3-year anniversary tomorrow, so I'm pretty proud to have been at Netflix for 3 years. I support hiring for essentially all the teams that make the UI possible. So if you watch Netflix, I hire for all those teams. I hire for our adaptive and streaming technologies teams, the platform teams, and the player teams that power the UI. I also hire for all of our UI teams, all of the UIs that are maybe TV apps, web apps, mobile apps, but I also hire for all of the teams that are building all the apps that our content creators are using. So I get to have a pretty cool impact at Netflix. Before Netflix, I was at Uber for about 1.5 years. And then before then, I was at a small recruiting agency called Tech Systems. Before then, I was in college. I graduated in 2015. I went to University of the Pacific. I'm born and raised in Stockton. I went to university there. And then I got out as soon as I could and moved to San Francisco, which is where I'm at now. And so let's hop in. Our topic, Kat and I's topic with a K, was moving forward in the workplace. So kind of just wanted to share a couple of these aspects about my identity. I have been the youngest person on a team for a majority of my career. I'm 26. I'm queer. I'm also the only queer person on my team today. My family is low income. I'm the first person in my family. I have 6 siblings to go to a 4-year university and graduate and move out of our hometown. I've felt that the last 5 years in the industry, I felt like I hadn't fit in with certain crowds. I'm brown, so those are just aspects of my identity. Everything that I just mentioned, I am extremely proud of today. I'm loud and proud. I wasn't always before, and that is my advice. So I think you should turn aspects of your identity that essentially holds you back into aspects of your identity to really going to move you forward, inside and outside of work. I definitely let the fact that I'm gay and I'm Latinx out and loud at work. It's just a big part of me. I've suppressed it for so long that I won't ever do it again. And so a couple of things that I just want to share with you is just the impact of ERG involvement and how that's helped me grow as a professional, as a person, but also how it makes me a stronger recruiter. And I also want to say why it's important to have a growth mindset in the workplace, and specifically a company like Netflix. And just for a fun fact, that's one of my best friends right there. We met on a shuttle at Netflix. So ERG involvement and impact. Our ERG at Netflix for Latinx is also called Somos, similar to Splunk, it seems. My ERG journey really started off as just a member. I joined when I was at Uber. I joined their Pride group, and when it came to Netflix, I really wanted to build a community right away, and so I joined their Pride ERG. And then I had an opportunity to join the Latinx ERG and help develop it. And so I kind of focused my energy there the last couple of years, which makes that intersectionally really hard. I only have a certain amount of time in a day. Do I want to invest in the LGBT community? Do I want to invest in the Latin community? So just kind of a takeaway there. But going from a member to an ERG leader, I'm the co-chair for our Bay Area chapter. It's really helped expand my network inside and outside of Netflix. It's how I met Francis, for one. But even at Netflix, I've met folks outside of recruiting and outside of my role. And if it wasn't via an ERG, I would have never made those connections and I would have never had that growth. Speaking of growth, I've had a lot of growth in my own Latinx identity. So I don't speak fluent Spanish. When I was raised, we didn't really grow up with much culture. It was, it's a household, not culture. And so when I moved to San Francisco and I wanted to be part of this Latin community, I just felt like I didn't fit in. But because I, got involved in ERGs, I've learned more about just the different Latinx experiences, that it's okay to not speak fluent Spanish. But I also learned how to be inclusive of different communities and perspectives, like the Brazilian community or the Afro-Latinx community. And if I wasn't involved in ERG, I honestly wouldn't have learned more about what those different perspectives look like. Once again, I think it's made me a stronger recruiter. I am extremely passionate about inclusion and diversity. And I think being involved with ERGs, not only ones I'm a part of, but just working with other ERG leaders, I've just gotten to learn more about different spaces at Netflix. And I interview candidates every single day. And so it's my job. I interview diverse candidates all the time. And I think by being involved in ERG, it really helps me connect with these candidates as well and really understand their stories and advocate for them. And so long story short, I really recommend ERG involvement. I recommend being on a leadership team for ERGs if you can. If your company doesn't have an ERG, form it. Form something similar to an ERG if you can't even form an ERG. And I think you should have a growth mindset in the workplace. It's super important. So respond to that reach out or interview again. I worked at 3 companies in 3 years, and it was because of reach outs. And so it's why I love being a recruiter, because recruiters can change your life. Recruiters have changed my life by allowing me and helped me get opportunities to work at Uber and Netflix. Also, just kind of a fun fact that I like to share is I interviewed at Netflix twice. The first time they passed on me. The second time I was a little scared to interview, but I was like, hey, might as well. And that really changed my life. In terms of shadowing, so I've been in my role for 3 years now, and we still shadow at Netflix. It's part of your onboarding experience, but I think if you shadow still folks today in your day-to-day jobs, maybe, for example, I shadow recruiters. I haven't hired a VP at Netflix, but that's an area of growth for me. And so I shadow VP interviews of my colleagues. I shadow how my colleagues are running their hiring syncs and working with their hiring managers, because I still have a lot to learn as a recruiter. So I recommend shadowing if you can. Shadow managers, other folks in your group as well. We'll kind of just jump to down to go outside of your job description. I've had a lot of growth at Netflix. I haven't had to have a role change in 3 years because I'm doing things outside of my job description. And that's how I found a lot of personal growth as well, and just been able to build my brand at Netflix. I'm someone who identifies a lot of problems. I'll call things out, but what I'm starting to do now in my career is also identify solutions. And I think leadership has really appreciated that I both identify problems and solutions. Feedback is very important. Netflix is a very feedback-oriented company. When I first started Netflix, feedback was something I wasn't the most experienced with, but now I see the purpose of it, and I really think feedback is a gift. If I'm giving you feedback, I'm giving you a gift to make you better, and if you're giving me feedback, you're giving me a gift to make me better. And mentors are important, whether they're formal mentors or informal mentors. For example, there is a Latina leader at Netflix on the recruiting team, and her and I worked really closely together, and it essentially turned into a mentorship. But me, it was just, I wanted to work with a leader that was similar to me in terms of one of my identities. And so at the end of the day, I think you should keep impact top of mind for you, for your career, for the communities you're trying to impact, and also just for your personal and professional growth. And to kind of wrap it up, I think you should be loud and proud and be an owner of your career. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Feel free to share some love for Michael. Everyone can unmute now. And we're actually going to segue into group reflection and closing thoughts after we take a fun group photo and also give away raffle prizes. Hooray! All right, so let me go ahead and pass it over to, actually, let me start my screen first, and then pass it over to Sal, who is going to announce our winners, and then after the raffle, we'll go ahead and do the group photo, and then segue into the group discussion. And again, you can unmute yourself, so you can be part of that too. So 1 second here. All right, can you see my screen here? Yes, okay. So Sal, do you want to go ahead and announce the 3 lucky winners of the Me Too Solidarity shirts for Pride Month?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to ask 3 people, or actually, so I pulled everyone's names who attended today. And while people were talking, I put them in an online wheel that automatically chose 3 winners. And so if these 3 people can stay behind, and we'll work out the logistics on how to do this. And so the 3 people who won is Mary Ramirez, Jose Ojeda, and Kathleen Tai. And so I see you're all still online, so if you can stay a couple minutes afterwards, and that way you can get the information.
All right. Mary, Jose, Kathleen, do you want to say any words?
Thank you.
Yeah, so the way it'll work is you'll be able to choose from any of these shirts, and we just need to get your information so we can go ahead and ship it to you. Hooray!
Yay, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, and again, just to, give a shout out here too, in solidarity with Black Lives, 100% of the net proceeds will go to legal defense and education funds that support the Black community. All right, now it's time for the group photo. We would love to share this on social media. If you don't feel comfortable though, feel free to turn your video off. That's totally fine. But India, if you could, just feel free to take the group photo and we can do like a little timer as well. India, if you want to facilitate that.
Yeah, I think you might have to stop sharing your screen so I can see the entire grid.
Okay, got it.
There we go.
And then
I'm going to take 2 photos because we have a lot of people here, and so it's 2 different screens. But I'll count it off. So I'll do one group photo and then I'll do another one so everyone can smile and look cute.
Yes. And feel free to unmute yourselves and make some noise if you want. But yeah, if you don't want to be in the social media, please turn your video off. But otherwise, yeah, India, you'll do the timer for the faces.
Awesome. So big smiles. 3, 2, 1. Smile.
Happy.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna do one more.
This can be like a weird one, right?
Ready? Oh, I see people's pets. This is awesome. 1, 2, 3. Super cute. Love it. Group photo, check.
Yay. All right. So now we are going to segue into group reflection and closing thoughts. If you want to share a comment, any closing thoughts you have, reflections, or ask a question to any of the speakers, just let us know by unmuting yourself, or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, use the chat box. And we're actually already at time, so if you need to, you can also, leave as well, but this is going to be kind of that time to close it out, and just be respectful when taking up space and allow space for others to chime in as well. Anyone want to start? Feel free to unmute yourself and yeah, go from there.
Question for Michael. Hi, I'm Adolfo. I met you one time at Techqueria. My partner is Sal. But my question for you is, how do you become a recruiter? Like, the more you talk about it, the more you're talking about, like, you're really bringing like actual accessibility. You're really like working in inclusivity in tech. I think I would do great at that, and I would love to do that. How do you get into it?
There's like a long answer and a short answer. I remember you, by the way. Good to see you. I started off at an agency. I think there's 2 ways to really get into recruiting. Start at an agency, work your way up into an in-house company, or you could start off as a recruiting coordinator at a company and get into a company as a recruiter. I only say that because from my experience, those are really the 2 potential ways to get into recruiting, either by starting at an agency or starting maybe in a different role within talent and then moving into a recruiter role. So those are 2 areas that I would recommend looking into.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, again, feel free to unmute yourselves if you have any questions, closing thoughts, reflections, or just, tokens of appreciation for all the lovely speakers we had.
I have a question. Ulysses, where did you get that bomb-ass shirt? Because I've been staring at it this whole presentation.
The Wish app from a few years ago. So, and it works well.
I love asymmetrical things,
Yeah.
clearly, by my graphic shirt.
Haven't been in a minute, though. Y'all will catch up on your way home.
So I know I'm a volunteer, but I just want to say it's so amazing being part of group conversations and listening to all of the different speakers talk about their intersectionality. I always thought I was kind of alone in that, but being queer, being a person from Mexico, and being bilingual and biracial and being around my people, like, just fills my cup, even if it's virtual. So thank you so much, everyone. This was so rich and like juicy. It's awesome.
I want to
plus. Ooh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. No,
go
Michael,
ahead.
go ahead. Are you sure?
I will. You go first. You go first.
I think we're
promise.
having the same thought. I think that's what's happening. I was gonna say India plus one. I like keep. It's such a weird thought to come to these events and hear how so many people who are the most inclusive making often feel like excluded or like they don't belong. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do we all, take it to the next level and continue to build belonging. But I feel like that's going to be another event. So thank you all for sharing. Yeah, right? Why do we all feel this way? We all feel this way. It's interesting.
I echo that too. It's very enlightening, and it's very like to hear all these speakers, and it's just I'm tearing up, but thank you.
And special shout out to a lot of folks here, because yes, it is Pride Month, and Pride Month was repurposed for a very good cause this month. And a lot of us hold these queer, Latinx, Afro-Latinx, Black, trans identities, and we do 80% of the D&I work at our company, even if white people are in those spots. I don't make the rules. It's unfortunately the way it is right now. So like, just saying, I see everyone here. Thank you for your work. It has been exhausting, and know that slowly people's minds are changing, and there are people who are finally waking up. So hopefully our lives get easier.
Alexis, like, huge plus one to that. Like, I've always done ERG work, like, at every company I've worked for, but I just don't see that actually transforming to, like, recognition and promotion. So that's like the next step I want to see, honestly, like, from companies, because so many people of color are obviously like heading these ERGs, and I want them to like get that recognition for doing that extra D&I work, like, outside of their full-time jobs for these companies, because it is increasing revenue for these companies, whether they want to like realize that or not. So that's what I want to see, like, next. So, like,
next group event.
I want to plus one everything everyone just mentioned. It's kind of ironic that this event happened this week. I had an intense conversation with some folks from my team earlier this week about just kind of the intersecting of like the queer identity and the Latinx identity. I feel like a lot of companies today focus on diversity that you can see, like race and gender, which is important. It's still important to focus on it, but I do think companies should make sure they're investing into other aspects of identity that you can't see, like veterans, like the Abel community, like the LGBT community. So I'll plus one. Question, is there a Slack channel that's like for queer and Latinx folks in Techqueria?
We do have the LGBTQIA channel, but I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, I'll look at that channel. I didn't know that existed. Cool.
Okay.
It tends to get pretty slowed down. Every now and then you see like bloops, so it's always good to see people talking in there.
Michael, I totally resonated with what you were saying. I'm a straight passing and white passing person, so I always think it's really important, especially in recruiting as well in companies, that there's people who are invisible that still need to have their light shined. But I also think that what Alexis said earlier, like, it's such a powerful time right now to be celebrating Pride because of our roots. And it's been so intense to be like isolating and having these events that it's been really warm, at least for me, to know that I'm not alone and that everyone's here to amplify the voices that need to be heard.
And as cheesy as this sounds, because I couldn't cover it in a 5-minute presentation, when I did come out to my parents, it was because my boyfriend in high school is trans. And that was a lot for my parents to like absorb or not at once. And in that time, like, trans wasn't in people's vocabularies. Like, it was really hard, and I didn't realize what it was until much later on when I had queer chosen fam, and they're like, oh yeah, like, it's this. So the fact that we have these communities now that people can go to that are, if you have internet and like are low cost or free, and we can talk about these things without that sense of shame and almost like that orgullo. Like I feel like it's part of the healing process. So just thank you everyone for either holding space if you're an ally, for being here, like for sharing you, like and who you are.
I want to say just a quick thank you to all the speakers. All of your stories really resonated. And also just a big thank you to the Techqueria team, because I don't know, this is the first event like this that I've been to. It's been really amazing. It was such an empowering space, and I felt so validated. And I love how interactive it was as well. And I would definitely be down to attend more events like this. But yeah, thank you everyone. You guys are great.
Yes, shout out to India, Sal, Abel. Thank you. And Ulysses for the support from the Blend team, and Yesenia.
Awesome. Yeah, this is, I mean, I was telling the breakout group that when I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, which is against like South Georgia, it's North Florida, we would never ever talk about this. And so it took a long time, and it wasn't until I moved to New York to go to college where it really hit me that when I was at home in Florida, I knew what was safe and what was not. And when I went to New York, and then later when I moved here, you just learn how passive aggressive and just how subtle and nuanced some of the bigotry actually really is. And so it's really hard to find a lot of these spaces. And, you know, I didn't start in tech. My background's in like architecture and city planning and stuff, and kind of stumbled into higher ed and government, and somehow ended up doing D&I work. But it's really important to me that we start getting people in the mindset, especially in the tech sector, that one, we are not a homogenous group of people. Queer people across the spectrum don't have one experience. We also have to do some work in understanding just the dynamics of racism within the queer community, but that's for another conversation, because I see you. But beyond that, I don't want any of these companies or you all to think when you're at these organizations that you all are just the numbers. Right? You are so much more than that. You're multifaceted beings, and it's time that we create more spaces like this, and more spaces are created for us where we can share those experiences and talk about them, because they in fact impact not only our everyday interactions with one another, but they impact the products that we build, as Kat illuminated so very well in that conversation. So big shout out. I saw the head of design at Blend, who's the executive sponsor for the Pride group, and I know Daniel Malik is on here, who's the Pride ERG lead, and Yesenia, who's the Blendissimo ERG lead, for taking on this extra work and doing this. And big shout out to the Techqueria team for really partnering with us on this and making this come to light. And I said it in the chat, but I mean it. If you're leading an ERG, make them pay you. It's not free work. Make them pay you. Period. No questions asked.
Any other closing thoughts, remarks, comments, appreciation, reflections?
No, I mean, this is really great, and I'm glad to see all the enthusiasm and all the energy from everyone in this. It's just pretty cool. I'll put a plug-in out there for myself. I've been thinking a lot about the talk that I gave, and I've been thinking about expanding this in somehow. So if anyone is interested in sort of talking or giving some feedback on it, I would love to connect and sort of learn more about what you liked about it or what you didn't like about it.
I just want to say thank you to Sal for helping me be here today. That's it. Thank you.
Isn't he great?
I just want to thank you to Sal, because I am so bad at checking Slack, and you DM'd me every time to make sure I was on my shit. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a message from him like a minute before the thing started. He was like, "Are you on Slack? Are you on Zoom yet?"
This might be a Southern thing, but happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride.
Yes, happy Pride, everyone. It's the first time I said it all month. Oh my God, wow.
Affirmation of the movement here.
And also, friendly reminder that just because it's not Pride doesn't mean you aren't valid, worthy, and loved.
I think that's a great way to end it. So everyone, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Feel free to check out our upcoming events at events.techqueria.org. Email us at hola@techqueria.org with any questions, comments, or concerns related to the event. And yes, feel free to check out Blend's upcoming opportunities at blend.com/careers. Thank you so much, and happy Pride Month again. Cheers. If you want to wrap up Pride, please stay for a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, you're free to go. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao. All right, Sal.
Kathleen and Jose, I got your emails. And yeah, thanks for joining. We will email you about the information and then work with you to ship the stuff directly to you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
joining.
much, and thank you for putting everything together. This was
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Thank you all for joining. Bye.
Ciao, bye.
Bye.
Hey, Francis.
Hey.
We didn't get Mary Ramirez.
Oh no, that's okay. She's a volunteer, so we can just
Okay.
reach out to her on Slack. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna message her on Slack right now. I think I saw her on Slack as well. So
Okay.
I'll message her directly. Cool. Thanks.
All right. See you, everyone.
Bye
Ciao.
now.
Bye.